The radical left's agendas are attacking your values. The conservatives like you haven't forgotten what this country was built upon. My friends, the Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard, to represent your values in the D.C. swamp. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the struggle because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. You know, it's amazing to hear the Democrats and the media and some Republicans talk about the threat that Donald Trump is to democracy, our Constitution, when it's the opposite. The opposite. Within our ranks. Members of Congress, members of the Democrat Party, isolationists, fake MAGA. They're plotting every day to destroy our principles, our country. And I do include fake MAGA. The isolationists. And they are now being promoted by left-wing corporate media. They say MAGA's divided. MAGA's not divided. Conservatives are divided. Conservatives are not divided. It's the New York Times and other publications who cling on to one reprobate or another. It's a relatively small cabal. But they're part of the problem, as are the Marxists and the Islamists. They're part of the problem. They don't believe in America first. They don't embrace our principles. They don't embrace the fact that we were on the right side of World War II, or the right side of the Civil War, that is, the Union. I want to play some clips for you, and then I want to address this. This was taking place on Labor Day. And I hope you had a great weekend. They're always too short, aren't they? Take 3 days, you want 4. Take off a week, you want another week. I get it. But we start with somebody really who should not even be in the House of Representatives, and a long time ago would never have been, likely would have been expelled. Because she's part of the enemy within. Not merely because she's an Islamist who embraces Hamas and other such organizations and the like, but she wants to destroy our country. That was the purpose of this event at the People's Conference for Palestine. I guess it was Sunday, rather, not Monday. Cut 1, Mr. Producer, go.
Well, guess what? Now we're in Congress, and we're every corner of the United States. Y'all, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. They will never truly comprehend, even after 7 decades, that we aren't going anywhere. We are just getting started. I want to say to all of them, every genocide enabler, look at this rooms, mother. We ain't going anywhere.
Rashida Tlaib. Cut 2 also.
As an American, this city taught me that the political structures that I have to work in, that we all are surrounded by, was built on slavery and genocide and rape and oppression. Detroit taught me that these institutions will never save us. Detroit will remind me constantly, the community mothers, that it's not the genocide-enabling Congress or the White House that will free our people. It is only us. It can only be us.
So this is the Hate America crowd. She is a second-generation Palestinian. Her parents came here from there. Omar is a first-generation Islamist. But it's not just them. It's the Bernie Sanders of the world. So there's people who've been born here, people who've been imported here, the Marxists and the Islamists. And I've warned you over the long course of my career about these entities, these ideologies. I spent some time this afternoon going through some of my older books. I went through Meritopia, and I went through American Marxism, believe it or not, which is 4 years old. Meritopia is 13 years old. Went through my new book on power. Just got me to doing a lot of thinking about these people, and I want to continue so you know what's taking place, because the media are barely covering this. And they ought to cover it rather than endorse it. The next speaker at the People's Conference that I'm going to play, we will continue to globalize the Intifada. Huwaida Araf. Huwaida Araf. Cut 3, go.
We wanted to globalize the Intifada, to expose to the world that Israel's policies have nothing to do with security, that Israel tries to tell the world, and that our government also regurgitate, gaslighting us. We thought that if we could get this message out, the world would wake up and not allow Israel to do this, to do what it's doing. And I must admit, that was a bit of naivete on our part. But we have and we will continue to globalize the Intifada. And we will force our governments to listen to us, because they want us to accept a world that is unacceptable.
Word's unacceptable. But in any event, globalize the Intifada means globalize terrorism. Hatem Bazian, we've talked about him in the past. He's the founder of Students for Justice in Palestine. He is a professor out in California. And this organization also has ties to organizations that promote terrorism or in fact involved in it. That's how shocking it's become that these people present themselves. They brag about who they are and what they are. They have large meetings, usually surreptitiously, but here publicly, it's like another day watching football or baseball. Cut 2, go.
Gaza
Cut 4,
should be the focal point on campus. My campus is Gaza. In campus are Gaza. The library is Gaza. The research is Gaza. And we need to connect it to every part of the struggle. Martin Luther King says in the 1960s, 3 evil society: militarism, materialism, and racism. These can be re-understood in relation to Gaza as well as transnationally. The time is today for a free Palestine. The time is today to liberate the university. The time is
All right, so this is Marxism and Islamism in one 40-second soundbite. Liberate the university. In other words, take them over. Decolonization, that's the United States. We're the colonizers. And free Palestine, which means destroy Israel and all the Jews within it. This guy is a very dangerous man. Tlaib is a very dangerous person. Sean Eren, E-R-E-N, Students for Justice in Palestine, Steering Committee member. Cut 5, go.
Movements never exist in a vacuum, of course. We all understand this. But oftentimes we think of them, or the tactical progression of them, as sort of siloed instances of political history. And I just want to interrogate that, because I think that there's worthwhile material in seeing the legacy and the lineage that the student intifada followed that can help us understand what our tasks are, why we've failed, right? Why this is month 23 of a genocide that should never have begun in the first place. So just like we say that, the genocide and displacement and colonization of Palestine didn't begin on October 7th, the organization, the tactical development, the strategy, all of these things about the Palestine movement, especially in the US, as we're all here, also didn't start on October 7th. We're embedded in a political legacy that sort of encapsulates all types of struggles. We learn from different struggles. We incorporate learnings and teachings from different struggles that we've experienced or observed in past and recent history. And I think that gives us a lot of content to work into our political strategy and a lot of ideas.
This is an entire poison spreading throughout our society. From the Marxists and the Islamists and the anti-Semitic fake MAGA isolationists, a cabal. They claim to be populist, nationalists, and conservative. They're none of those things. They're more Islamist and Marxist. Sachin Pedada, speaker. Cut 6, go.
We have to destroy the idea of America in our heads, in our neighbors' heads, in our comrades' heads, in everybody's heads in this country. We have to work towards problematizing and getting away from the normalization of the violence of the military-industrial complex that is just baked into these supply chains. And we have to actually present an alternative that is appealing and meaningful to people.
Mm-hmm. Comrades. Notice he said our comrades. This is a complete fusion, as I wrote in American Marxism. One more, and we'll take a break, and then I'll do some talking about all of this. Cut 7 at this conference. Go.
Gaza needs to be saved now. It saved all of us, liberated all of us. It is time for us to pay back.
Let us be clear. These are all people supporting monstrous terrorism and terrorists and Hamas and Islamic Jihad and the whole thing. And the isolationists don't want us to fight them, don't want us to stand up to them. They want us to take whatever they have to serve, these people, against us. They're usurping our country. They're undermining us from within. They are the enemy within. You can hear them, how they move from attacking Israel to attacking the United States. Again, I've told you about this over and over again, how they dehumanize you and me, how they use Martin Luther King, who would be appalled at what these people are doing and have done. Go ahead.
The criminals, the perpetrators, the child murderers, and we all know who they are. We all know who they are, whether they are in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in Washington, in Germany, in Europe. We all know them.
Meaning the whole West. The whole West is the enemy. Israel, the United States, Europe, the entire West. These are the words of the terrorist so-called scholars. Go ahead.
They need to be locked up. They need to be taken out. They need to be neutralized.
They need to be locked up and taken out. Locked up, taken out. Notice also there was no violence targeted against these people. None. Notice, though, if Jews gather in one place, there's almost always violence targeted against Jews. I'm just pointing it out. Go ahead.
Children, to save children, to save the humanity. We are not saying this out of hate. We are saying this out of love for the children, love for life, love for humanity where every life is equal.
That's enough. He finally remembered the taglines that they're for love and children and humanity and life. That's after he said about taking us out. Taking us out. You know, ladies and gentlemen, there's a big part of the world that's controlled by the Marxists. Big part of the world controlled by the Islamists. A lot of people being slaughtered. And the Arabs. A lot of people being slaughtered. But you see, that's our fault. It's Israel's fault. It's Europe's fault. I don't know what else to do, but this is an extraordinarily dangerous cancer that is metastasizing in the West and in our own country. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Conservatives in every stage of life are faced with ever-increasing challenges to our values in the classroom, on campus, and at work. Prepare yourself with a solid understanding of our nation's founding principles in today's most important public policy debates. The Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy to help ensure that every conservative from any walk of life has the foundation and the tools needed to defend their values. This 8-week online fellowship includes policy lectures on the most pressing issues facing Americans today, live Q&As to learn from top experts in the conservative movement, and opportunities to connect with other conservatives around the country. Without conservatives grounded in truth and informed on the state of our nation, America as we know it cannot survive. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and learn more about the Heritage Academy and how you can apply. That's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. 13 years ago, I wrote a book called Ameritopia. I'm proud to say some people are going back and taking a look at it, because I heard some of what I'm about to say on television today, and that's a good thing. And this is from Ameritopia. The impact of Marx and Engels on mankind has been enormous and devastating. Notwithstanding 100 years of communist tyranny and mass genocide, the fanatics cling to the utopia. Any failure is in man and the men who bastardized communism, Stalin, Mao Zedong, Castro et al. Not in the dogma, they say. True communism, they argue, has never been faithfully executed. After all, as Marx and Engels preached, the workers' paradise is inevitable. I want to explain that further when we return. America needs patriots who know our founding principles and who can stand by those principles today. That's why the Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy, to prepare conservatives like you with the additional knowledge needed to stand firm in your beliefs in a world far too often unwelcoming to conservatives. All Heritage Academy fellows learn from the country's leading experts through policy lectures and live Q&A sessions. Speakers include Victor Davis Hanson, Mark Morgan, Dr. Kevin Roberts, and many more. Fellows also interact with other conservatives across the country in one of 3 tracks: high school track, college track, or the professionals and patriots track. I wish every American could join this 8-week online fellowship. But the next round of applications close on September 21, so please go to heritage.org/Levin to apply today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Join the Heritage Academy to help restore America. Learn more at heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, the Great One.
The Great One, Mark Levin.
Dial in now, 877-381-3811.
So wherever Marxism has been tried, it has resulted in impoverishment, inhumanity of the worst kind. And so we're always told, well, that's the wrong person, Stalin and Mao, and it's never really been tried. So I wrote that 13 years ago. But I want to say something now that is not intended to be controversial, but I know it will be, and it'll be exploited and misstated. But let me be clear. We have people who keep telling us what America's youth believe. We have people who run organizations that are focused on colleges. We have young people who form their own little groups and they go on TV. And we have older people telling us what young people believe. First of all, young people, that's a very nebulous term. What does that mean? And it amazes me that people claim to speak for all these young people. They claim to speak for everyone. When they don't speak for anybody. They form groups, they tell the groups what to think, and then they tell you what the groups think, which is really to advance their own ideology and agenda. And we see this all across the board. But let me tell you now what I think. As somebody who spent most of my life studying history and writing about it and talking about it, and then let me make clear that I'm not talking about every young person, because there are young people in this country who serve in the military, who serve as police and firefighters, put their lives and their welfare on the line. There are young people who work hard every day and try to make a living and follow the law and pay their taxes. The young people who fail, but they get up and they fight again. In other words, there's young people in this country who conduct themselves like American youth have always conducted themselves. But there's apparently a big swath who do not. And so they find appealing the Marxist propaganda, which even the Islamists use, that if you're not achieving, it's not your fault. That if you're not achieving, it's the fault of the system. That if you're not achieving, it's capitalism. It's not you. You don't have any responsibilities. You have a right to have your education subsidized, the birth of your children subsidized, your food subsidized, your transportation subsidized, your housing subsidized, if not for free. Those are your rights. I mean, after all, we have billionaires in this country. Against whom you should be proselytizing, should be very upset. Look what they've stolen from you. Look what the older generation has stolen from you. Look at what capitalism has done to you. This is all dressed up Marxism, of course, for a tyrannical, totalitarian, centralized police state. Climate change. Look at how American industry is destroying your future. It's existential. It's worse than war itself. And so we literally have millions of young people. Again, I stress, not all, but millions, and that's enough. Who believe that they're owed whatever they want. That they should be whatever they want because it's equality or it's a right. And somebody else is responsible for them to get there. And if they don't get there, it's the fault of the other person or the other groups of people or the system. These are the individuals, not all, but millions, who don't dust themselves off and decide, you know what? I'm responsible for myself. I have the freedom to determine what I'm going to be and how I'm going to be. It's either their parents' fault or their grandparents' fault or government's fault or history's fault. You can't afford a home? Well, we have to destroy the city to make sure you can, says Mondani. Food's too expensive? Well, we'll make it cheaper just by nationalizing it or taking it over. Fuel's too expensive? And I could go down the list here. Life is a challenge. Life is an everyday challenge. With freedom comes hard work, accountability, responsibility, individualism. Your freedom ought not require somebody else's enslavement. That is, your freedom shouldn't require somebody else to pay higher taxes to subsidize you in an economic perspective. Or this whole system shouldn't be turned inside out because of you. It's much easier for those who are lazy of mind and body to attack the successful. They're not really successful, you see. It's unequal. They're oppressors. They've used the system. The system's always been bastardized, you see. The system has always been racist. It's always been bigoted. I would be something. I will have already accomplished something. I will already been a great poet or a wealthy person or a great painter or whatever. But for the fact that, fill in the blank. If I can't afford something, a house, I have a right to a house. So something's wrong. If I can't afford to get a master's degree, then something's wrong because I want a master's degree. If I can't afford, fill in the blank, it's not me. It doesn't mean I should change course. It doesn't mean maybe I did something wrong and should be a little circumspect and maybe figure that out. No. It's the billionaire down the street. It's capitalism. It's Donald Trump. It's my parents. It's my grandparents. It's something else. It's not me. Now, this is a very dangerous and sick psychology for a society. Because what's happening more and more, the uniqueness of this society, freedom, let's take that, number one, is being used against itself. That phrase, you're free to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and make something of yourself, is now mocked. Well, I can't. Why? Because the system's against me, because of my race, because of my sexuality, because of God knows what, because of the climate, because of the environment. And I fear this is what's going on. And this is why so many young people are susceptible to Marxism and Islamism, because they pretend to have the answers. Islamism doesn't have the answers, and the evidence is in the way people live under it or die. Marxism doesn't have the answers, same reason, the way people live under it or die. Every one of these societies are impoverished in every respect. In every respect. What you see going on in our country could never go on in a Marxist country, could never go on in an Islamist country or an Islamist group, ever. You have people who have now in some ways successfully characterized themselves as the oppressed, characterized themselves as the righteous, as the liberators, when in fact they're just garden variety thugs. Violent, monstrous thugs. And we are destroying ourselves. We're destroying ourselves. The people with this mindset populate a significant percentage of our lifetime federal appointed judges. Our entire college and university system is overwhelmed with faculty and administrators that push this kind of thinking on our young people, which is why there's such a distinction between the views of people who are in an older generation and a younger generation. Again, there are exceptions. There always will be and there always are, but that's not my point. You have people going to the White House and they're telling the president, people I know, the president has told me, saying, you know, Mr. President, because of the way Israel is fighting, young people are turning on Israel and they're becoming anti-Semitic. This is from people who are promoting anti-Semitism and hatred of Israel. And it's more than that. When it comes here directly to the United States, what we're seeing, what we're hearing, how the media serve as a voice for this ideology. Even some conservative media believe they have to balance, quote unquote, their reporting with this stuff. I fear that if we ever need a draft, if there's ever a full-out war with the Communist Chinese, and they outnumber us 5-1 in terms of people, and if there's ever a draft, we'll have the greatest resistance to a draft in the history of this country. People flooding into Canada or somewhere else. I truly wonder if many, not all, but many of these people would have fought in World War II. What would their position be in the American Revolutionary War? I truly wonder. Because here's the truth. Ready for the next one, Mr. Producer? The vast majority of young people in this country have never had it so good. By the way, like the vast majority of people who aren't that young, but I'm focused in on this generation. The vast majority have never had it so good. There hasn't been a draft. There's no requirement for government service of the sort that is patriotic. I'm not talking about joining the civil service or a public sector union, or I'm talking about, requirements of that sort. They've never been more subsidized, this generation, than past young generations. Never. And I'm worried about it. Very worried about it. They're very vulnerable as a result of all of this. Very, very vulnerable. Vulnerable to the Marxists and the Islamists. Very vulnerable. And in their heart of hearts and in their mind of minds, They become vulnerable to other things. Drugs, reckless lifestyles, potentially. Fewer and fewer young people are people of faith. Again, many are. I'm talking about those who are not. But fewer and fewer are. And that's a problem, because that's where we get our morality from, not government, not from TV, not from the news. Anyway, I thought I needed to lay it out. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Conservatives in every stage of life are faced with ever-increasing challenges to our values in the classroom, on campus, and at work. Prepare yourself with a solid understanding of our nation's founding principles in today's most important public policy debates. The Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy to help ensure that every conservative from any walk of life has the foundation and the tools needed to defend their values. This 8-week online fellowship includes policy lectures on the most pressing issues facing Americans today, live Q&As to learn from top experts in the conservative movement, and opportunities to connect with other conservatives around the country. Without conservatives grounded in truth and informed on the state of our nation, America as we know it cannot survive. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and learn more about the Heritage Academy and how you can apply. That's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Let me ask you this. Podcasters, some of the others out there, subscription hosts, I don't know. Whatever platform. What do people actually learn from these people? What do they learn? Conspiracy theories? Bigotry and racism? That they can smoke pot on a video? Which, is that a big accomplishment, Mr. Producer? They want to be cool? You see, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm telling you in the last half hour or so is considered a big problem because, if we're going to get ratings from young people, you can't explain what I just explained. I get ratings from everybody by giving my opinion. This is what I tell people who want to get into this business. You respect the audience will respect you. Don't play games. Don't play mind games. 22 years today, I began this 6 p.m. show on WABC, coming off the Sunday show. But I want to spend a little bit more time on this in the next hour. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. It's funny how the Democrats keep talking about genocide in Gaza. Not funny in a comical way, funny in a grotesque way. We have, give or take, 15,000 to 16,000 people murdered in our cities every single year. Every single year. Do these same people seem all that concerned about it? And if they are, what do they do about it? Not what do they say, what do they do about it? They attack the cops. They may not be defunding the police, but they're underfunding the police because that's what they're doing. They have prosecutors who won't prosecute. They have judges who won't incarcerate. In our own country. You know what's happening in our cities? You ready for this one, Mr. Producer? Genocide. Against innocent Americans. Well, not all, but many. Now, ABC News is reporting that at least 58 people were shot, 8 fatally, across Chicago over Labor Day weekend, including a drive-by attack, one drive-by attack that left 7 victims wounded. That's one city. But then you're going to hear from the mayor and his media, and you'll hear from the governor, crime is down. Crime is down. The dehumanization of the victims and the future victims. And so Pritzker goes out, and he's talking about how Donald Trump wants to militarize Chicago and other blue areas, claims some kind of emergency in order to prevent the election in 2026, the midterm election. This is crazy stuff. This is nuts. Nuts. Now, if Donald Trump didn't give a damn, he wouldn't get into this fight with Pritzker and Newsom and all the rest of them. Would he? He just let it all go to hell, like most Republicans would and every Democrat who's in public office, virtually. So Trump's a dictator. Trump's undemocratic. Most of these people dying are young black men. And most of the people doing the killing are young black men. And most of the killing is occurring in cities. These are statistics, too. These are facts. And so it amazes me that the media do not say to these mayors and governors, you're using these statistics. Doesn't every person's life matter? Where is blacks' lives matter when it comes to the criminality that's going on? How come Black Lives Matter is silent? Why is that? Why aren't they joining with the pastors and other community activists who support Donald Trump sending in the National Guard? We wouldn't even have to talk about the National Guard if the police were fully funded, if the police were able to do their jobs, if we had judges that put criminals in jail, and we had prosecutors that prosecuted criminals that judges would put in jail. But we don't in many of these cities. And you got guys like Mondani, you've got Latucas James, you've got this nut job mayor in Chicago, the nut job mayor in LA. I go down the list. I could go down the list. You actually have a political party that's on the side of the criminals, including the violent criminals. I don't care if they say they aren't. I don't care what their media and their editorial pages say. They are, by their actions. By their actions. And they're going to do more of it. The Marxist Islamists, a.k.a. democratic socialists, don't you know, they want to further weaken the cops, further empower the criminals. In fact, you know how they want to bring down crime? Basically eliminate misdemeanors. And misdemeanors can be very violent in America and very damaging to life and property. So they want to redefine what a crime is, just like they redefine what a man and a woman are. That's their answer. What is Pritzker's answer? He is none. What is Mondami's answer? None. Bass, nothing. These governors, nothing. That's the truth. Murder. Just murder. In American Marxism, which many of you have, I wrote a chapter 1, saying, it's here. It's here. The counter-revolution to the American Revolution is in full force. It can no longer be dismissed or ignored, for it is devouring our society and culture, swirling around our everyday lives and ubiquitous in our politics, schools, media, and entertainment. Once a mostly unrelatable fringe and subterranean movement, it is here. It is everywhere. I wrote this 4.5 years ago. You, your children, and your grandchildren are now immersed in it. And it threatens to destroy the greatest nation ever established, along with your freedom, family, and security. The counter-revolution or movement of which I speak is Marxism. And I talk about in the book how it's been tailored and customized to America. And hence the phrase I coined, American Marxism. In America, many Marxists cloak themselves in phrases like progressives, democratic socialists, social activists, community activists, etc. As most Americans remain openly hostile to the name Marxist or communist. They operate under myriad newly minted organizational or identifying nomenclatures such as Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the Squad. They claim to promote economic justice, environmental justice, racial equity, gender equity, and so forth. And I would add now these Islamist groups. They've invented new theories, like critical race theory, and phrases and terminologies linked to fit into a Marxist construct. They claim the dominant cultures, they call it, in capitalist system are unjust and inequitable, racist and sexist, colonialist and imperialist, materialistic and destructive of the environment. Of course, the purpose is to tear down and tear apart the nation for 1,000 reasons and in 1,000 ways, thereby dispiriting and demoralizing the public, undermining the citizenry's confidence in the nation's institutions, traditions, and customs, creating one calamity after another, weakening the nation from within, and ultimately destroying what we know as American republicanism and capitalism. It's interesting now how relevant all this history, philosophy, its application to current events is today, isn't it? And yet I've been doing this for 23 years. 23 years. And I want to thank you folks, really, everywhere I go. It can be a diner. It can be a bookstore, of course, book signing, sporting goods store, a hospital today for a family member and so forth. People are coming up to me, and they're saying something very similar about why they listen to this program. If they want paint by the numbers, they can go anywhere. If they want to hear what so many of these podcasters have to say, almost always about themselves, smoking weed, or what so-and-so believes, just mind-numbing stupidity. They say this is different, because it is different. If I did from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, paint by the color, that is, just pick news off websites and run with it and repeat it and regurgitate and so forth, this show would cease to exist. And it should. Because there'd be more compelling things. I've got more. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. So we literally have a party that runs all these cities. I mean, they've got the mayor, they've got the city council, they've got the prosecutors, they've got the judges, they've got everything. It's one-party rule in New York. It's one-party rule in Detroit. It's one-party rule in Philadelphia. It's one-party rule in L.A. It's one-party rule in Chicago. One-party rule. One-party rule. How is it the Democrat Party gets away with this? And honestly, but for Donald Trump, they've gotten away with it for decades. And Trump doesn't have to give theory or ideology. He brought the National Guard in. He federalized the local police. It's the federal city, after all. And he's brought incredible security and safety to that city, meaning the people in the city, the overwhelming majority of whom are of color. And the overwhelming majority of them are black. It is a Democrat city. And yet, a Republican president steps in and says enough is enough. Then he's looking at Chicago. And what does he see? A disaster. We all see a disaster. And the governor's there doing videos of the waterfront, videos of he's protected, he's doing videos. It's so absurd. People are being murdered and otherwise victimized. And he's running a marketing campaign. And then he's throwing out a conspiracy theory about what Trump plans to do in the 2026 election. But people have to live this life. The dirty little secret is that Trump is exposing life in the worst parts of these cities that don't get enough police coverage because there aren't enough cops. Where the schools are failing and they're not allowed to go to another school. Where drug use is through the ceiling. And these Democrat politicians are pigs. They're basically pigs. Getting more and more money to featherbed their bureaucracy, their appointments, and so forth. That's what's happening. Where's all this money going? No, it's terrible. And then they support, on top of it all, yet another issue, all this illegal immigration. People coming into communities from other countries. Some percentage of them are violent criminals. MS-13, the Venezuelan gangs, they come into our country. Most of them are not settling in Palm Springs, in Palm Beach, Martha's Vineyard. I can tell you where else they're not going to settle. Washington, D.C. He's dealing with them. He's dealing with them. Pritzker's not. Bass isn't. Newsom, he's a clown. So here we have Pritzker talking about what's coming. The playbook. Cut 13, Mr. Producer, go.
Well, they should understand that he has other aims other than fighting crime. That's the first thing they should understand. The second is it's an attack on the American people by the President of the United States. Now, he may disagree with a state that didn't vote for him, but should he be sending troops in? No.
You said he has other aims. What are the other aims?
The other aims are that he'd like to stop the elections in 2026 or, frankly, take control of those elections. He'll just claim that there's some problem with an election, and then he's got troops on the ground that can take control if, in fact, he's allowed to do this.
I hear you talking about invasion. I hear you talking about him suspending elections. Or is it your belief he's an authoritarian?
Look, I can tell you this. I built a Holocaust museum.
All right. Hold on. He built a Holocaust museum. He's the governor of Illinois. People are being murdered. This has nothing to do with the Holocaust or a Holocaust museum. Go ahead.
Of a constitutional republic being overturned after an election in 53 days.
How was it overturned? They had a coalition-type system where in order to run the government, the majority party, the chancellor, brought in the Nazis, brought in Hitler. Chancellor was an old man. He made Hitler the number 2. And as he died, Hitler seized power and he burned down their equivalent of the parliament. What does that have to do with Donald Trump or any of this? I'm so sick and tired of this. Sick and tired of this. And it goes on without challenge. Then there's another guy whose name I can't pronounce. He wants to be the governor of Illinois. Chris Namorethi or something. Raja. And I don't say this to make fun. I can't pronounce it. But don't worry. He steps in and he gives the governor speaks as a character witness. Cut 14. Go.
Unfortunately, I think the governor is correct in being concerned about these possibilities. We just haven't. We're going into dangerous waters, uncharted waters right now, where a president is potentially willing to do anything.
All right, a-hole. The dangerous waters are we literally have a governor and a mayor and here a congressman who wants to be governor. They don't give a flying you-know-what about the citizenry while they pretend they're protecting democracy. The number one job of government, local, state, federal, county, I don't care what it is to protect the people so they're safe. If you're not safe, nothing else matters. If your life is always threatened and you're always in fear, nothing else matters. I'll be right back. When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk. Wireless worth bragging about.
The establishment's worst nightmare. Mark Levin. Call in now. 877-381-3811.
You know, America, we need to pass some laws in this country where we can, in fact, deport individuals who preach revolution against it. These people who cite the First Amendment, they don't have any understanding of the First Amendment. None. Does the First Amendment cover pornography? No, it shouldn't. Flag burning, I've talked about that at length. You know, at National Review, they posted an article many years ago by Bill Buckley on this flag burning issue, and he made, as always, he made great points. To say that the First Amendment protects flag burning, and remember, it wasn't until 1989 that the court ruled 5-4. 5-4 on flag burning, and they didn't rule that in every instance flag burning is the First Amendment either. There were many exceptions to it. Just the dunderheads who run around sloganeering, don't read, and when they do, they don't comprehend, or they just deceive you. That's why I literally read from the decision to you. So even when it comes to flag burning, there are many exceptions. That said, I think it's time we upgrade our immigration laws, that if people are openly organizing for the overthrow of our government, that we can, I'm not talking about American citizens, by the way, I'm talking about people who are here as a privilege, on visas as an example. They should be deported. Deported. We really need to tighten this up now because we really are in extremis as far as I'm concerned. The reason why Donald Trump is a great president is because he sees it, he knows it, and he's fighting it. You know, there's things he does that you may not agree with. Maybe you don't like tariffs. Maybe I don't really care. The guy's trying to save the country, save the culture, save the society. And nobody else tried. Nobody. He's being fought by the Marxists, the Islamists. He's being fought by the Democrat Party. He's being fought by the media, the academia. And he's being fought by these white nationalists who are dressed up as MAGA or dressed up as whatever they're dressed up as. I'm serious. If you listen to podcasts, I want you to start listening to them to see when you're done with the podcast if you actually learned anything that day or if it was just sort of a clown show. Do you know what I mean, Mr. Producer? That's why they bring on comedians who are Jew haters. They don't bring on serious people. Or if they bring on serious people, they ask them if they want to share a joint with them. Or they shout them down and they talk over them. Podcasters. Podcasters are nothing except what you make them to be, like a radio show host. But podcasters are nothing but people with basically all you need is a box and a microphone, right, Rich? That's pretty much all you need. Oh, and they put video cameras on themselves. Yeah. But I want you to listen to some of them and you decide. I'm quite serious. If you've actually learned anything from them, or if they sound like the nut job relative you had in the attic. Obviously, you didn't have one in the attic. It's an old saying. If they sound like the moron you went to school in the back row, or if they sound like some homeless guy on the street or something like that, do they really say anything that's worthwhile or intelligent? And then know that their motivation isn't to do that. Their motivation, all right, here's the dirty little secret. You ready? Their motivation is to be quoted in left-wing media and left-wing websites. That's their motivation. The clicks and the hits and the this and the that. That's their motivation. It's crazy. Brandon Johnson is this so-called mayor of Chicago. What a joke. I hate to say this, but Mondami's going to make him look like Barry Goldwater by the time that's over. Nonetheless, he's a nut. These politicians have blood on their hands. Absolutely. These Democrat politicians have blood on their hands. It's sickening. Cut 15, go.
We have received credible reports that we have days, not weeks, before our city sees some type of militarized activity by the federal government.
Now let's stop. Now listen to the way he phrases it. Militarized activity by the federal government. What do they make you think of? They make you think of Stalin rolling into Hungary. Right? Something like that? In the 1950s. That's what they want you to think. Go ahead.
Clear at this time what that will look like exactly. We may see militarized immigration enforcement. We may also see...
So that means ICE, which is not militarized. ICE is part of federal law, and the federal government has plenary power when it comes to immigration. So this is all just claptrap from this buffoon. Go ahead.
Our troops. We may even see active duty military and armed vehicles in our streets. We have not called for this.
All right, so this is yesterday at a press conference, all right, Labor Day. Now, he's had 58 people shot, 8 murdered, 37 individual shootings. 58 shot, 8 dead. And this is what he talks about yesterday. This is what I mean. They don't give a crap about the citizenry. Nothing. These mayors and these city councils and these governors view it as a personal affront to their power. How dare ICE come in? Well, ICE is free to come in as a matter of federal law. How dare the National Guard back up the local police? Well, the president has that authority, whether the mayor likes it or not. Otherwise, some of the elementary schools and high schools in the South would never have been desegregated. That is, integrated. When Dwight Eisenhower federalized the National Guard. Go ahead.
People have not asked for this.
Yeah, people have not asked for why. Do you take a straw poll? Cut 16, go.
This sweeping executive order directs our Department of Law to pursue any and every legal mechanism to hold this administration accountable for violating the rights of Chicagoans.
So he signed the executive order, which is meaningless. Go ahead.
This order affirms that the Chicago Police Department will not collaborate with military personnel on police patrols or civil immigration enforcement. We will not have our police officers, who are working hard every single day to drive down crime, deputized to do traffic stops and checkpoints for the president. This order affirms the CPD officers will be directed...
Thank you, and for nothing. Did people say that Dwight Eisenhower militarized our schools with federal troops when he sent the National Guard to Little Rock, Arkansas, the Little Rock 9 crisis of 1957? Did he? Did they? Is that what they said? Is that what they said? When Faubus, the governor, I believe that's who it was, where he used the National Guard to block 9 black kids from entering Central High School. And Eisenhower said, no, you don't. He federalized that National Guard and ordered them to escort these 9 black students into the school to enforce desegregation, integration. Did he militarize our schools? Did he? No. And do you know the phrase that was used? He federalized the Arkansas National Guard, he said, to preserve the peace, quote unquote, to preserve the peace. When Governor Faubus did what he did. He sent federal troops there. And those troops would have been backed up by active duty military. That's the truth. And so that's what Eisenhower did. So if you're federalizing the National Guard to save the lives of people in these communities, the vast majority of whom are black, why does this guy say militarize our streets? Why does he talk that way? Does that sound like somebody who cares? Do you know Eisenhower basically forced Faubus to agree that the National Guard would remain at school for a decent period of time to maintain order? So the National Guard was present in and around the school. In and around the school. And then finally, Faubus asked for and had the National Guard removed, and he replaced them with the local police who did the job. Who did the job. I mean, to me, this goes to the heart of what kind of republic we are. Do we want to keep all of our people safe or not? I mean, I'm surprised at the bizarre kind of reverse racism that's going on here. People can live in communities that are safe or virtually safe, which are wealthier, which are relatively distant from the cities, which are mostly white. And it's funny how the Democrats don't mention that. Do you want to know why they don't mention it? Because they run the cities. And they'll mention it when they want more money for the cities, but they won't mention it when you have a president of the United States who's willing to put in the National Guard, put down the criminals, and send them to prison. Then they don't mention it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. You'll hear things I say here regurgitated, but that's why you're here, right? Did Ike militarize, quote-unquote, our schools when he federalized the National Guard in 1957 to escort black students into Central High School? Of course not. The governor refused to allow the students safe passage into the school and blocked them from entering the school. Donald Trump is not militarizing Chicago. He wants to ensure the people there are safe. Right? While the mayor and the governor are doing next to nothing to protect them. It's really incredible. So did Eisenhower militarize our schools when he federalized the National Guard in 1957? To escort black students into Central High School? Is that what the National Guard's for? Well, Mark, if the mayor and the police weren't going to uphold the law, exactly. Exactly. The governor refused to allow the students safe passage into the school and blocked them from entering the school. The president's not militarizing Chicago. He wants to ensure the people there are safe. Well, the mayor and governor are failing in their jobs, are failing to protect the citizens. And by the way, they're not only citizens of Chicago and Illinois, they're citizens of the United States. Just thought I'd remind everybody. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. While the isolationists, the fake MAGA, the anti-Semites, those podcasters and influencers, they were not going to like this. USA Today, United States military strikes alleged drug vessel from Venezuela and Caribbean Sea, 11 killed. The U.S. military killed 11 alleged Trinidad members aboard a suspected drug boat originating from Venezuela in the southern Caribbean on September 2nd. See, the head of the Joint Chiefs, our great Secretary of Defense, they have enough vessels there to monitor this. And these drugs that are coming in from Venezuela, I think Trump's had enough of it. The move announced by President Trump during a press conference today marks a milestone increasingly militarized. Here you go. A militarized use of U.S. counter-drug efforts in the region. Militarized. Trump secretly authorized military force against drug cartels in early August. What is wrong with that? Now, there's something... Anything this man does, it's criticized. It's unbelievable. Earlier this morning, on my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. The strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters, transporting illegal narcotics heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. That should be celebrated. Later in the day, the White House posted a grainy black and white unclassified video that purported to show the open boat on the seas. It's being taken out in a military strike and then engulfed in flames. Sizable U.S. Armada currently sits afloat in the waters where the strike occurred. 4 destroyers carrying Tomahawk cruise missiles. More than 4,500 Marines and sailors are deployed in the area. Ooh. Don't tell Bannon or Catarlson or Owens or the brain trust over there. No. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro alleged to report as September 1 the naval buildup indicates Trump is seeking regime change through military threat. This guy sounds like the mayor of Chicago. He claimed his country's military is super prepared to face off with American troops if necessary. Troops. We're not sending troops into Venezuela. Missiles, maybe, but not troops. Trump singled out Maduro in his Truth Post, claiming that Tren de Aragua is operating under the control of Maduro, and we've offered a $50 million reward for his arrest. Well, that's good, isn't it, America? Yes, it is. U.S. law enforcement and Coast Guard members have previously had deadly encounters at sea with drug smugglers in the Caribbean. Well, now the deadly is going to be on their part, isn't it? And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So we salute our military, our Coast Guard. We salute the President of the United States. Job well done. Job well done. Amen to that. Want to hear this one? George Mason University, citizens of Virginia, or maybe you have kids attending, you're from out of state. For the Washington Free Beacon, I bet you haven't heard this one. With President under scrutiny, George Mason reinstates infamous Students for Justice in Palestine chapter months after police found guns and terrorist paraphernalia in the leader's home. George Mason University, whose president has been in the national spotlight over race-based hiring practices that the Trump administration says violates federal civil rights, has reinstated its Students for Justice in Palestine chapter, which is suspended last year after police found guns, ammunition, terrorist paraphernalia at the leader's home. The group teased its return in a radical recruitment video released on Sunday, one day before fall classes kicked off at the university. Though SJP did not reveal its reinstatement in the video, its suspension terms allowed it to re-register as a student organization. for the fall of 2025 semester. George Mason spokes idiot confirmed that it's a registered organization. Now, what do you think of that? You know, Governor Youngkin and the Attorney General, his name escapes me, I don't know why they don't do more about these things. I know they are lauded for their fantastic work in schools. I'm not seeing a lot of it. You got 5 counties in Northern Virginia, the biggest counties, all of which have said, excuse me, we are allowing girls and boys' bathrooms and boys and girls' bathroom if they declare that they're of the opposite sex. And nothing's being done that I'm aware of. At the state level, the state has a lot of money it can withhold. I'm not seeing anything. Then you have George Mason University with the Students for Justice in Palestine, which is really Students for Terrorism in Palestine, STP. Is there still STP oil? I don't even know, Mr. Producer. Yeah, nobody knows. Anyway, this is in George Mason University, which is a law school named after Antonin Scalia. It used to be, George Mason University was founded and expanded by economic conservatives about 30, 40 years ago, and was this school that was really like a shining school on the hill in terms of its sort of Hillsdale-like academia. But look what the left did to it. They've taken it over. It's now another kook left-wing school. They tried to get rid of Scalia's name on the law school. They failed in that, at least. I don't know if he'd want his name there or now. Who knows? There's a senator from Georgia that most people outside of Georgia have never heard of. He's a radical left-wing kook. He's a trust fund baby, just like Mandami. His name is John Ossoff, O-S-S-O-F-F. He's an off, but not an Ossoff, a different type of off, if you get my drift, Mr. Producer. He's a Jewish Democrat, a self-hating Jew who has talked publicly about, as I'm reading from the Atlanta Journal, Jewish Times, relatives living in Israel, voted November 20 in favor of 2 of 3 resolutions advanced by Bernie Sanders. And they called for a halt to U.S. delivery of tank rounds and mortar shells to Israel. He voted against the 3rd resolution that called for a halt to delivery of guidance kits for joint direct attack munitions known as JDAMs. 16 Democrat senators, including Raphael Warnock, another radical kook Marxist from Georgia, voted in favor of advancing all 3 resolutions. Ossoff's votes likely will be an issue when he seeks re-election. You know, it's one thing to have a Marjorie Taylor Greene who is a real Israel hater and worse. But this guy, these self-hating Jews are really, they turn your stomach because they're more Marxist and Democrat than anything else. And they give cover to the anti-Semites. Cover to the anti-Semites. People of Georgia, you better wake up to this fact. This guy's no damn good. Yep. Want to hear another one from our friends at the Free Beacon? One of the great sites, by the way, the Free Beacon. The offer of a UN-backed Gaza famine, which I've seen on conservative TV, too. That report peddled anti-Semitic tropes, conspiracy theories, and terrorist apology. Andrew Seal, who serves on the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification Famine Review Committee, compared Israel to Nazi Germany and accused the Jewish state of killing its own people on August 7th. Again, that sounds like Green, too. What do I know? Certainly Owens. You know, that whole cabal. An author of Elena Goodman, an author of a UN-backed report that accused Israel of creating famine in Gaza. It's a longtime anti-Israel radical who has defended Hamas, claimed Jewish politicians have a conflict of interest on Middle Eastern issues. Isn't that sound like Bannon? And supported boycotts targeting the Jewish state. Andrew Seal serves on the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification Famine Review Committee and helped write the IPC's highly publicized report published earlier this month has a history of incendiary rhetoric. So let me ask you this. These news organizations and anchors and reporters who use this report, don't they take 2 minutes to find out who wrote it? 2 minutes to find out who wrote it? Numerous mainstream media outlets picked up on the claims without disclosing SEAL's history of attacking Israel and defending Hamas terrorists, or noting the possibility that his beliefs could have influenced the IPC report. Newspapers and networks like the New York Times, NPR, CNN, ABC News, and others relied on the IPC report to claim Israel policies have led to mass starvation, with the Times stating that months of severe aid restrictions imposed by Israel in the territory have caused a famine across most of Gaza. They changed the definition of famine, and they did everything they could, has the UN. They even participated in the attack on October 7th. How do you like that? Want to hear another one? Our friends at Breitbart. Breitbart is a great site. Great. Alex is fantastic. My buddy Joel. Genocide scholar blows whistle on anti-Israel associate. This has been going on all weekend, folks. All weekend. A widely reported vote, this is yesterday, by an association of so-called scholars declaring Israel guilty of genocide was rigged to achieve a predetermined outcome, according to a member of the group. International media reported yesterday, that the International Association of Genocide Scholars had voted 86% in favor to conclude that Israel was guilty of genocide in its war against Hamas in Gaza. Israel firmly rejected the vote, saying that it inverted the victim and the perpetrator, given that Hamas had invaded Israel, determined to kill many people. This is what's going on. All these organizations, media organizations, so-called academic organizations, public policy organizations, they've all revealed themselves. And they hate America, too. The UN, all these phony scholars and all the rest of it. It's true. Then we have from the Telegraph, which is a radical left-wing so-called newspaper, Chief U.S. Correspondent Rob Crilly. I think this jackass once tried to reach me. Now, nobody's heard of Rob Crilly. Nobody reads the Telegraph here, but I choose to use it as a foil. The growing Republican split over Netanyahu. Key conservative figures warned Donald Trump that support for Israel's war in Gaza is a political liability. And it goes on. And, of course, it mentions Bannon and a few of the others. Key conservatives, don't you know? With enormous clout. The vast majority of conservatives and Republicans support the state of Israel, period. That's the truth. Can't say the same for Democrats and leftists. Can't say the same for, fake MAGA and those people. But the truth shall set you free. Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
First of all, I want to congratulate the New York Post. They're doing a hell of a job on this Mondani. Some newspapers are here and there, but they're on it, man. Big time. Our nation's oldest newspaper. I meant to do this early in the program, but here we are. Oh, mama, Qatar bankrolled over a decade worth of the films directed by Zohran Mamdani's mother. Folks, Qatar is a terrorist state that promotes terrorism, that promoted the attack on 9/11 against the United States, that promoted attack against the state of Israel on October 7th. It is a vile nation run by some inbreds that is bought and paid for politicians who are lobbying, like a former Democrat congressman whose name escapes me. And, of course, I've mentioned other people as well who they own. They own. Hamas back in Qatar has bankrolled film and stage projects by socialist, that's Marxist, Zohran Mamdani's Israel-bashing movie director mom. And one of its royals is now pushing her son's mayoral bid, the Post has found. I don't think history is going to be able to get its head around the fact that the people of New York may vote a man in a mayor backed by a country that was involved in 9/11. by giving safe harbor to the leader of 9/11. Before he was the leader of 9/11, but they knew he was a terrorist. And gave safe harbor and a fortune to Hamas to attack Israel. History is not going to understand this. Sheikh al-Mayasa bint Hamad al-Thani, sister to the ruling emir, sister, and the state-funded cultural institutions she controls, have supported Mira Nair and her creative project since at least 2009, even extending a personal invitation to participate in the cultural program the country organized as part of the festivities around hosting the 2022 World Cup. Since mid-June, Sheikh al-Thani has taken to promoting Mandami's mayoral candidacy on social media, boosting news of favorable polling on Instagram, and posting fire emojis under a TikTok video of him embracing Nair. Quote, they are buying somebody who is willing to be bought at a time of their choosing. They will ask for what they want. Warned Danielle Pletka, a foreign policy expert at the American Enterprise Institute think tank of Nair's Qatar ties. Boy, is she right. They need a rainbow coalition of people who will support the ideology they promote. Sometimes it'll be Islamism, sometimes it'll be anti-Semitism, sometimes it'll be anti-Israel. And they have a list of the films that she invested in. I'll just pick one. The Doha Film Institute paid the entire $15 million budget of Nair's 2012 film. There's one. And there's others. Too long to mention. Qatar's Sharia-inspired social policies, which bar women from marrying or holding government roles without a male guardian's permission, and which can punish homosexuality with torture or even death, are at odds with the progressive images Nair and Mamdani have cultivated. The filmmaker has presented herself as a voice for the marginalized, where her son is pledged to make New York an LGBTQIA plus sanctuary city. But they're Islamists, America. Thousands of migrant workers died building facilities for the World Cup in Qatar's 125-degree temperatures. How come nobody ever mentions that? How come the UN didn't put out a report on that? Her Highness, Sheikh al-Mayasa bin Yabadabadu, has loved the movie but also supported the inception of this musical over the years. Several years, Nair said. Nair has boycotted the Haifa International Film Festival over Israel policies, and so, yeah, they're anti-Jews, they're Jew haters, Israel haters, America haters, but Qatar lovers. One day, my words about Qatar will be heeded, and it'll be too late. I'll be right back.
This is the Octagon of Talk Radio, The Mike Levin Show. Call him now at 877-381-3811.
Been quite a day here. I can't get into all of it. Mostly sad, some good. So I'm rushing to meet a friend of mine who I haven't seen in a long time. He's a good man. He's actually my lawyer here, my real estate lawyer and so forth. And so I rush, Mr. Producer and America, and I forget to bring one of my books. So I actually went into the Barnes & Noble on the way, and I bought one. And they couldn't be nicer, by the way. They have been fantastic. And Barnes & Noble's got books. And actually, all the retailers have been unbelievable. They really have. Hudson, I can remember the last time Hudson stepped up, but they've stepped up. Other bookstores at airports and all, maybe, and you've seen some of them when you were traveling, those of you who were. All the big stores, all the small stores, Amazon, everybody's been great. You folks have been great. And those of you who've read it, left your beautiful comments on Amazon, I much, much appreciate that so other people can know. This is not a book that's going to get old. I just read from two other of my books to you. They don't get old because I don't write about topics that are just immediate to this second. Now, I may use examples, but But the bigger arguments, the bigger points are meant to last for eternity. Let's go to Greg. Vernon, New Jersey, the great WABC. Greg, go right ahead, please.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank God for John Catsimatidis for buying that station. I don't know what we would be listening to if somebody else owned it.
Well, you're right.
But I see what's going on. I'm 70 years old. So I understand what this country was like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. When we had pretty much a civilized nation. We don't anymore. We have people coming into this country that don't come here to assimilate. They come here to take over. And, they're not Christians. They're not Jews. They're Muslims, most of them. And it's a problem, and nobody understands that. I'm hoping that people wake up. I mean, I wait for people to talk about this stuff. I bring this up in conversations where I work. People just don't understand. They don't know. They're not paying attention. They don't see it the same way I do. I understand if you're 30 years old, 20 years old, even 40 or 50, you probably don't understand. What changes have happened in the last generation, but my God, when are people going to wake up?
I think you're talking about the Islamists, and you're right, because the Islamists, if you read their scholars, and I'm saying this for the whole country, if you read their scholars, they don't hide what they're doing. They don't hide what they're doing to the West, that is Europe and us, and they don't hide what they're doing to us. And Mandami doesn't hide what he wants to do to us. CARE doesn't hide. The founder of Students for Justice in Palestine, which is really the Students for Terrorism in Palestine, none of them hide what they want to do. Hamas, and so they're out now full-throated, and they're protected by federal judges. They're protected by a Democrat Party. They're protected and given jobs in academia. You're 100% right about people don't know what's taking place in this country. Thanks for your call, my friend. Appreciate it. Let's go to Mike, Dayton, Ohio, Sirius XM. Yes, sir.
Yes, it goes on the heels of what you were just talking about with the Students for Justice in Palestine. I don't understand why you have hate groups organizing on campuses, and we have accreditation for them. Why can't we, like Linda McMahon, remove their accreditation? Or, when Obama was president, they took over 98%, I think it was, of the federal student loans. So why can't
I don't think the federal government accredits these schools. I think the states do. That's what I think happens.
There's got to be some way to get out of it. Can I ask you something else also?
Sure, what the hell?
It's related to the elections. And I understand if people don't want, their election process being taken over by the federal government. But, even though the president is a federal office and it's pretty much the main one that controls the whole country, the executive office, we also have the Congress and the Senate. And if they pass bills out of New York, and California, these liberal places that affect my life in Pennsylvania where I live, now it's a federal affair because I'm suffering the consequences. So I don't see why it's controversial for them to be able to step in not only in presidential elections, but in for the Congress and for the Senate. Why is that a problem? Or
well, what if the left controls everything? Are you still in favor of it?
As long as it's a fair process. I mean, when we're talking about...
It's never fair under them. That's the problem. They're power high. You don't have my book, do you? You can be honest.
You sent it to me, and I just got it over the weekend.
I want you to read it. I want you to read it. That'll answer your question.
I will. And thank you.
Mike, you're always a good caller, buddy. Appreciate you very much. Yeah, people, if you buy it, I really want you to read it. And if you haven't bought it, I want you to buy it and read it. He makes some very good points about the consequences, about the end game. But the process matters, too. Not to the point of being stupid, but the process matters because the left uses uses our process to get to their end game. That's what I'm trying to say. That's what they do. Anyway, the book spells it out beautifully, and I hope if anybody's interested in that, they'll take a look at this. Let's see here, Mr. Producer. I'm trying to find the list of mine here, and I am failing to do it. Hold on, America. I'm getting there. Let's see. There's no way what's that? Well, let's do that because I'm still looking for Mark in New York, the great WABC. Go right ahead, please.
Well, so does the last chapter of American Marxism, Mark.
Yeah.
People fired up. Yeah. And I watched your program a few weeks ago about illegal immigration. And if nobody's ever seen it, they should go on YouTube and watch it, because you gave chapter and verse the history of the whole affair. And one of the things that the liberals want to talk about is the one Kim Ark case. And I read that case thanks to you. And I researched it, and I also watched a lot of videos, a lot of liberal scholars and all the rest of it. And they're completely distorting what Justice Gray said in that case. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he talks about in his decision was he stated that all children born in the U.S. of immigrant parents, quote unquote, having permanent domicile and residence in the United States and are there carrying on business. So if that doesn't tell you that you have to basically be legal here and have a green card and have a residence, I don't know what else to say. Not
only that, what's interesting, and this is a very good call, Mark. You know what's interesting also is where did birthright citizenship come from? Who put it in place?
Technically, their children should be.
No. Who put birthright citizenship in place and called it birthright citizenship?
That's correct. It was never stated.
Nobody who was ever elected. No president, no Congress, no court. They believe it came out of the Social Security Administration at one point, that's how they started to treat illegal alien children. That somebody interpreted the Constitution that way, and they've done it ever since. And now it's as if it's chiseled in granite. And, of course, it's not. All right, brother. Thanks for your call. Excellent call. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Our buddy Sebastian Gorka was on the Constipated News Network Sunday. I don't know why any of our guys are, any members of Congress. Nobody's watching, and they're part of the enemy. On the church shootings, cut 24, go.
So let's narrow it down then, because by CNN's count, when you look at 32 school shootings since 2020, in which you have 4 or more people who have been killed. So these are the larger school shootings. Only 3 of 32 of those shootings were committed by transgender shooters.
Yeah, forgive me if I don't go with CNN stats, okay? CNN has proven itself to be wholly inaccurate in all kinds of things for the last 10 years, perpetrators of the Russia hoax, and that we didn't have an open border. So please forgive me if I don't take your stats for granted.
All right, it's simple math. 2 of 32
No, it's
shootings.
not. It's distortions. You are distorting the facts. Let me be clear. In just a couple of years, we have seen 7 mass shootings involving people of transgender nature or who are confused in their gender. 7
I saw what
in
you
just
tweeted.
the last couple of years.
I see your list of 7.
Inordinately high. So
I see your list of 7. 2 of them are Sebastian and Mr. Gorka.
With the facts and not CNN's pseudo-facts.
We can't stick with your facts because they're not accurate. In fact, in 2 of them, one of the ones you quoted...
Let's talk about CNN's reputation for accuracy.
In one of the ones in which you posted, there was no evidence that he was trans.
Right.
In another... The individual was known within his family by male pronouns and used anti-LGBT
you have an agenda.
Rhetoric. No, well, let me ask you this. You've made it clear, and this is not going to change. You think transgender people are the problem here. So what specifically do you think should be done?
No. When did I say that?
You clearly think
when did I say that,
you
Brianna?
think it's a pattern? You've tweeted about it.
You just created live fake news.
He didn't say that. Not that I heard. Here's Latukas James at a campaign rally for Mamdani in the Bronx today. Cut 23, go.
But the bottom line is that we're closing in on victory. That's right. And victory is near.
No, you're closing in on prison there, lady. Prison. And a big orange tarp that they'll use for your dress. That's right. You're closing in already. You're closing in for mush, for dinner, lunch, and dinner. And breakfast. And dinner for you. 3 dinners, 1 lunch, 1 breakfast. That's right. Maybe you'll be working the road gangs. You never know. I can just see it now, Latukas. Oh, yeah. That's what you're closing in on. But there they are, all for Mamdani. Because he's done so much for New York. We can't name one damn thing. Because his mother is pro-Hamas, pro-terrorist. Oh, because his father has a tenured lifetime job at Columbia University where he teaches hate of America, hate of Jews. Sure, he's qualified to serve as the mayor of our biggest city. We know who's backing him. We know who's supporting him. Every misfit, malcontent, and reprobate imaginable. That's right. What a mayor he would be. Well, New York will depopulate itself of people of any morals, any true belief systems, and any money. And it will repopulate itself with welfare recipients from all over the world, illegal aliens, and all the rest. It'll be just fantastic. It is so sickening. And if I hear one more Republican say, so let him win, it'll help us nationwide. You got to fight these bastards every inch of the way. But the next thing you know, New York becomes Arkansas, and on and on and on. These people are serious about their power, they're serious about their hate, and they're serious about their violence. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine and Israel. We haven't forgotten you. And you, the American people, thank God for you. And we'll see you here tomorrow. Be well.